The strange case of the dancing plague of 1518. In the summer of 1518, the streets of Strasbourg were filled with music, but not the kind you'd expect. Dozens of men and women were seen dancing uncontrollably, their bodies twisting, their feet pounding, their faces marked with exhaustion and fear. But this was no festival, and there was no celebration. The dancers couldn't stop. Some collapsed. Others died of exhaustion, strokes, or heart attacks. What became known as the dancing plague of 1518 remains one of the strangest medical and cultural mysteries in human history. Today on Uncovering Facts, we'll dive into this bizarre event, what actually happened, who was affected, and what theories, scientific, psychological, and even supernatural, might explain this unsettling epidemic of dance. Section 1. Setting the stage, Europe in 1518. To understand the dancing plague, we need to go back more than 500 years, to the city of Strasbourg, located in what is now France but at the time part of the Holy Roman Empire. The year was 1518. Europe was in turmoil. The continent was in the midst of religious upheavals, famine, outbreaks of disease, and economic hardship. Strasbourg itself was a city struggling with poverty, food shortages, and the after-effects of medieval plagues. Daily life was hard, uncertain, and often brutal. It was in this tense and fragile environment that one of history's strangest epidemics began. Section 2. The Outbreak Begins. It all started in July 1518 with a woman named Frau Troffea. According to historical accounts, she stepped into the street and began to dance. At first, it may have seemed unusual but harmless. Maybe she was celebrating something, or perhaps she had lost control of herself. But what made this event remarkable was that Frau Troffea did not stop. She danced for hours, then through the night, and then into the following days. Reports suggest she danced for nearly a week. Her feet were bruised and bloody, but she kept moving, as if compelled by some unseen force. Soon, others began to join her. By the end of the week, dozens of people had been overtaken by the same uncontrollable urge to dance. Within a month, the number of dances grew into the hundreds. Eyewitnesses claimed that around 400 people were caught in the grip of the strange mania. Section 3. The reactions of authorities. At first, city leaders and physicians were baffled. The clergy suggested it might be a punishment from God for sins. Doctors, on the other hand, dismissed supernatural explanations and believed it was a natural illness, a condition they called hot blood. They thought the afflicted could recover only if they danced the fever out of their system. So, in a decision that seems almost unbelievable today, the city actually encouraged the dancing. Authorities set up guild halls, opened public spaces, and even hired musicians to provide rhythm, thinking it would help the sufferers dance their way back to health. Instead, the situation worsened. The music encouraged even more people to join in, and the numbers of dances swelled. Witnesses described scenes of horror, men, women, and children collapsing from exhaustion, some foaming at the mouth, others breaking bones, and some even dying on the spot. What was intended as a cure had turned into fuel for the fire. Section 4. How did it end? The outbreak continued for weeks, peaking during the hot summer months. Eventually, the city reversed its policy. Instead of encouraging more dancing, they banned music and ordered religious interventions. The dances were taken to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dances and epileptics. There, priests performed rituals and prayers, hoping to cleanse the victims of their affliction. By September, the epidemic had finally subsided. But the mystery remained: what had caused hundreds of people to dance themselves to death? Section 5. Theories and explanations. Over the centuries, historians, scientists, and psychologists have debated the cause of the dancing plague. While we may never know for certain, several theories stand out. 1. Ergot poisoning, the LSD bread theory. One of the most famous explanations is ergot poisoning. Ergot is a fungus that grows on damp rye and can produce powerful hallucinogenic chemicals similar to LSD. Consuming bread made from contaminated grain could cause hallucinations, muscle spasms, and convulsions. Could the people of Strasbourg have been poisoned by their daily bread? It's possible, but critics argue that ergot poisoning usually makes people too weak or ill to dance for weeks on end. Also, the symptoms don't quite match the descriptions from 1518. 2. Mass psychogenic illness, mass hysteria. Another popular theory is mass psychogenic illness, also known as mass hysteria. This occurs when groups of people, often under stress, begin to display the same physical symptoms without a clear medical cause. Strasbourg in 1518 was a city under immense stress. Poverty, disease, and fear of divine punishment weighed heavily on people's minds. Religious beliefs at the time also suggested that curses or saints could control human behavior. Under these conditions, it's possible that one woman's strange outburst triggered a psychological chain reaction across the city. 3. Religious ecstasy and cultural influence. In medieval Europe, outbreaks of uncontrollable movement weren't entirely unheard of. There were earlier, dancing manias, in the 14th and 15th centuries, often linked to religious fervor or cult-like practices. Some scholars believe the Strasbourg outbreak may have been a form of ritualistic or religious expression that spiraled out of control. 4. Neurological disorders. Some modern scientists suggest neurological conditions like epilepsy or Huntington's disease could have played a role. However, the sheer scale of the outbreak, hundreds of people at once, makes this explanation less likely. Section 6. Why it fascinates us today. The dancing plague of 1518 remains so compelling because it sits at the crossroads of history, science, psychology, and culture. It shows us how fragile the human mind and body can be under pressure, and how communities interpret mysterious events based on the knowledge and beliefs available to them. In 1518, doctors believed in hot blood, priests blamed divine punishment, and townspeople turned to saints for relief. Today, we turn to science, psychology, and history to seek answers. But even now, no single explanation fully accounts for the tragedy. Section 7. Legacy and cultural impact. The event has inspired writers, musicians, and artists for centuries. Bands have named songs after it, novels have reimagined it, and scholars continue to study it as an example of mass hysteria. It's also a reminder of how culture shapes illness. In one society, strange movements may be seen as possession. In another, they might be diagnosed as a medical disorder. In Strasbourg, it became known as a plague. Conclusion, final thought. The story of the dancing plague of 1518 isn't just about people dancing to their deaths, it's about the human struggle to make sense of the inexplicable. Whether caused by poisoned bread, psychological stress, or spiritual belief, it highlights the powerful connections between body, mind, and society. And maybe that's why it still haunts us today. In a world where we think we've explained everything with science, the dancing plague reminds us that some mysteries remain unsolved. So next time you hear a strange story from history, remember, truth can be stranger than fiction. Please do like, share, and subscribe to Uncovering Facts as we deep dive more into history.